We are all used to the fact that comics are filled with various villains, madmen with a plan, to take over the planet and other troubles. And there was one hero there who had no equal. So his name is Saitama. In the past he was an ordinary person who lost his job. Only thanks to his patience and constant training, the main character was able to become the strongest hero in the world in 3 years. To defeat the enemy, he needs only one blow to the opponent, as he will be defeated. But now he has a serious problem. There are no worthy rivals, and now all the superhero life is... The main character is a guy named Shin who was born in Japan. Working in an office, occupying a low position, he could not even imagine that one day he would face supernatural phenomena. Due to an accident, Shin passed away, and ended up in a parallel dimension. There he met very interesting circumstances. He perfectly remembers everything about his past life, although now he is in the form of a baby. Raised Shin as an elderly man who calls himself a sage. When Shin grew up again, he began to understand his goal is to start developing witchcraft. As a teenager, Shin created his magic, and he was ready to receive new knowledge. The old man sent a talented guy to the elite magic academy. Therefore, he intends to go to the kingdom of Yuusha. At the age of 15, the boy leaves the old man, thanks to his upbringing. The sage is afraid that the child he found, and the currently grown boy, does not seem to be on friendly terms with his head. Having let the boy go, he worries about him. Well, like everything, go ahead. High school student Sudu Kanam had a quiet life, and the boy was a little tired of everyday worries. 2000 in the 20th year has already presented a lot of surprises. The new Anime Darwin's game promises to be truly exciting and dynamic. The plot is focused on Kanam Sudu. The main character is just a 17-year-old boy who receives from his friend, with whom he is often fond of computer games, an SMS message containing a link to another online game for mobile phones. The schoolboy often thought about how to diversify his life, and the desire was heard by higher powers. One usual day, an old friend turned to Sudo, and invited him to play an entertaining online game with him. Kanam, without really considering the offer, agreed to take part in an exciting adventure. It turned out that such a rash decision turned into a dangerous event. After the players are included in the list of participants, their outcome is a foregone conclusion, because in the end there should be only one left. The winner will receive a reward equal to the points scored, and the prize can be collected in case of victory over all opponents. Darwin's game takes place in the real world, and participants feel real pain and may die. Sudo got into the game of survival and he can't win by taking first. The city of Arario is famous throughout the world, because it is in it that great adventurers live who bravely fight monsters in the dungeon. Several decades ago, the gods got bored, and they decided to seal some of their own powers and go down to Earth. Now in the human world you can meet different deities who have created named guilds. Each of the goddesses will try to find skillful swordsmen, shooters and wizards for themselves, in order to have the strongest guild. Belcranel has long been interested in the dungeons that the deities have created, and he trained for a long time to become an adventurer. But in reality, everything turned out to be much more complicated, because joining a strong guild is not so easy. Once a guy met a girl on the street who turned out to be one of the deities, but no one knows anything about her. The little-known goddess Hesha offered her protection to Bel, and the boy agreed. After being initiated into adventures, the teenager went into the dungeon, but he was in for a great disappointment. On the 5th floor, the young man met a powerful minotaur, who almost killed the boy. One day, while browsing the collection of the local public library, Iwatani Nafumi came across a suspicious tome called The Tools of the Four Saints. And the last prophecy about another world walks among people, from where heroes were summoned, in order to save our lands and lands from destruction. And again the magical world with its inhabitants turns out to be not at all as friendly as the Japanese guy Iwatani Nafumi who was waiting for him. According to all the rules, the hero was summoned, figured out the foundations of the world, even got his own shield. But at first glance, the friendly inhabitants of the fantasy kingdom turned out to be the same insidious scoundrels as the inhabitants of the real world. Thrown by other heroes, a parallel world, from otaku Naofumi Iwatani, has only one ally, the beautiful Princess Motomeru. However, she soon betrays Naofumi by stealing all the wealth and as a result, Naofumi was robbed and framed. And yes, it was difficult for him to accept all this, but he found we could continue on our way. And then all and sundry began to beware. Both the peasants, and even the king. The mighty of this world turned into enemies, and the unfortunate hero lost faith in people. But something still changed. He was filled with anger and a desire for revenge. Because of his shield, Iwatani could not fight normally. He was abandoned by his comrades, and the one to whom he trusted robbed him and denigrated his name. Now the young man is an outcast in this alien kingdom, and he doesn't really want to be a hero. Now he is trying to rebuff the ridicule of fate, and wants to show people that they were cruel to him. Now he wants to take revenge, proving that he deserves more in this life. Will his heart turn to darkness, or will Iwatani still restore his faith in The human world is filled with a variety of spirits. No one else can be surprised by the presence of an otherworldly creature. Newly born inhabitants of the earth are behaving quite boldly. They love to smoke and do harm. To suspend the activity of invisible beings, special people called psychics began to appear. They know how to deathly fight monsters and send them to their familiar surroundings. Mob, or Shigeo Kageyama, is one of the fighters against evil spirits. Kageyama, nicknamed Mob, is an incredibly powerful telepath and part-time high school student. Together with his charming mentor, a charlatan, whom Mob unconditionally trusts, he investigates mystical incidents and dreams of gaining control over his power. As it usually happens, on the way the boy has a lot of obstacles that he has to overcome. Mob Psycho 100 from the creators of One Punch Man throughout all episodes retains the spirit of lightness and satire inherent in the very beginning, despite mind-blown collisions and periodic breaks in the template. In short, Mob took the best from Saitama, redesigning it into a simplified visual style. The hero is not a stern man, but a simple 8th grade student who amazed those around him with his unique abilities from an early age. The boy tries not to use the gift in everyday life, so as not to distract his classmates from studying. But most of all, he does not want to disturb one girl for whom he has serious sympathy. A night raid is a group of renegades who carry out sabotage against the mighty empire, whose lands stretch across an entire continent. Few people know that the cold-blooded killers, for whose heads the award has been announced, in fact, albeit not entirely noble, but still the most brave liberators and fighters against the rotten system created by a corrupt government, absolutely do not care about the impoverished population of the empire, to end true to its sovereign. A simple boy Tatsumi, leaving a modest village, finds himself in the midst of a coup d'etat, becoming everyone's comrade in the night raid. He wanted to reincarnate as a captain, but the local leader threw away the ambitious boy, and explained that this should not be done. Tatsumi was forced to spend the night on the street. Soon he met a mistress who agreed to shelter him. The sudden ability almost led the boy to death, because, it turns out, this insidious stranger deliberately drew the villagers to her, so that later, with increased cruelty, deal with the unfortunate victims. But the boy was lucky, as the killers arrived in time, tirelessly cleansing their abode of filth. The plot of Akame ga Kill, from and to is replete with unexpected twists. The average school children, Tate and Drin, are bored with sitting in class and are looking forward to returning home. After class, classmates play an exciting online game and they feel comfortable there. Boring activities for a couple of gamers were not interesting, and therefore they spend most of their time at the game console. One ordinary evening, the guys started playing, and a sparkling ball appeared in front of their eyes. After this mystical incident, Tichi and Drin found themselves in a fantasy world. There was no connection on the phones, and the friends did not immediately understand where they were. The friends decided to head for the nearest settlement, but a terrible monster met on their way. This was the first fight with a demonic entity, and it ended with the victory of the teenagers. It turned out that in this dimension, schoolchildren, their primary task is how to get home, but they are unexpectedly attacked by monsters from which they miraculously escape. Then they meet adventurers who were advised to join the guild. Thus, ordinary high school students turned into the strongest magicians. The magical world brings more and more pleasure to the main characters, who themselves decide to become outstanding magicians, and subjugate the power of the elements to save the alien world from. It is rare to see a situation where brother and sister harmoniously complement each other. 18-year-old Sora is 7 years older than his little sister Shiro, and the guys share a common passion that makes their life extraordinary. Teens love to play online games, and they've done well at it. In one of the popular games, the characters of these geeks are known to all players. Only the real names are not known to anyone, and even Shiro and Sora called their characters Spaces. Each battle ends with a victory for unsurpassed gamers. One day, a strange message about an invitation to a game of chess came to the guy's computer, and the teenagers agreed to accept the challenge. After the victory, the gamers were asked a couple of questions, and a moment later the brother and sister found themselves in a strange world. It turned out that the game of chess was played with the god Tate himself, who deliberately threw the teenagers into another. In a world unknown to schoolchildren, there are only 10 rules that need to be established. The city celebrity invited gamers to fight in a chess game.
I'm 23. I'm sorry, Mom. I'm sorry, Mom. My siblings are perfect and I wish I were the same. Making bad decisions, it should be my middle name. I love playing with fire, it's my favorite. Watch me by my whole